up, y'all, and welcome to another episode of Worldly Church Girl. It's your girl, your host, Lillian Harshaw. On today's show, I have a podcast host, a motivational speaker, and most importantly, he is an overcomer of a testimony you got to hear. It gives me great privilege to introduce to you Mr. Erik Allen. So in your bio, you talk about how you lived on your own since the age of 14. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I grew up in this house that I thought was like the typical household. My dad and my mom, we went to Sunday school, and I have a younger sister, and we lived in this desert area of Eastern Washington. So we'd go out and find stuff that out in the desert. It was dumped and things like that. And well, it turns out my dad was an alcoholic. I never knew it. He was very quiet. He wasn't abusive or anything like that. And so when I was 11 years old, my parents got divorced, and both of them got together with somebody very quickly right after the divorce. Unfortunately, my mom got together with another gentleman who was a very abusive alcoholic, and they had a child together that's about, my little brother is 13 years younger than me. And after my first half of my 8th grade year, my mom and her boyfriend decided to move us to Montana, which I knew was a very bad idea because I had already seen him beat up my mom several times in the house that we lived in Washington, and she never pressed charges. So I grew up in this, watching my mom just get beat up and never pressing charges. We moved to Montana, and I was in this area where the house they moved into was basically them. So they had their own room. My little sister had her room, and then my little brother had his room. And for me, I was 12 years old, moving to the state of Montana, and didn't have a room in this house that my family moved us to. And so what they did was they actually stuck up a plastic wall in the garage on one half that had a fireplace, and that was my room through the winters of Montana, and it really kind of sucked. I mean, put my mental state to the test for sure when it got down into the 0-degree temps during the winter there. But I remember being in Montana. It was about midnight. I was 13 years old, and my mom and her boyfriend came home arguing one night. And as I'm brushing my teeth, so the way it's set up is I was in the bathroom, and then if I turn to my left and look down the hall, there's the kitchen and then the pantry and then to the garage to where my room was at. And so as I'm brushing my teeth, I felt God say, hey, you need to look around this corner and see what's going on. So I turn around and I look at this down the hallway, and I see my mom's boyfriend on top of her and literally just punching her in the face one after the other. Boom, boom. And I got to think to myself, how do I get this guy off my mom? And so the first thing that came to my mind was grab a frying pan. And so I grabbed one of those cast iron, super heavy camping ones, and I snuck up behind him. And as hard as I could, I took a swing and hit him in the back of the head and split his head open. He was so drunk, it didn't knock him out. He turned around and he was kind of mid-sentence, like, what the? And then as he was mid-sentence, I took another swing and split his forehead open here. And at that point, I had fallen over. He stood up, still not knocked out. And I remember him yelling over me, and my mom coming out of nowhere and throwing like 6 punches to his face, and blood was splatting on the wall. Of course, the police came, took him away for the night, but my mom would never press charges. After that, I moved to live with my dad out in Washington State. My dad rented this house from his girlfriend's mom. And so I moved to live with my dad from my sophomore through senior year of high school. My dad would put $20 in a cup. That was my lunch for the week. And he would stock the fridge with Hungry Man meals and cereal and milk. And that was basically my food. My dad would go and live with his girlfriend, basically. There'd be several times where I wouldn't see my dad for a month or two at a time because he would be over there and I'd be going to school. And on the weekends, it was turned into this party house. So I became a heavy pot smoker, LSD, mushrooms, whatever I could get my hands on in high school. And even to the point when I was 18 years old, I was arrested for having a bong. I had to spend the night in jail. So very scared going to jail at 18 years old. And it was funny because I didn't know God at the time, obviously. But when I went to jail, I took my Bible with me. And I just said, I'm just going to read my Bible. And so I showed up, and they put me in the black and white chain gang outfit, and I had a bright orange slippers, and I had to go into this jail with 12 other guys. And it was really scary. And like I said, I just sat there and read my Bible and listened to the stories of just the craziness of how these guys got in there. And God just, I think, protected me because I didn't have a cellmate. I was out the next day. And yeah, it was just kind of a crazy life for sure.
Now, how did you overcome all of that?
It took me a while. Took me a while. I even after I got out of jail, I was on probation for a year, so I didn't smoke pot. That's what I had to stay away from, and I became a drinker at that point. And so when I moved to Seattle, I had a friend call me up and say, "Hey, do you want to move to Seattle?" And I said, "Sure." I had $100 in my pocket, and I slept on floors of people I didn't know. Sometimes it was cousins of cousins, and between the ages of 18 and 21, I moved 21 times, living on different couches and living with different people, and really was just lost. I was dating a girl prior to moving to Seattle that knew Jesus, that I gave my life to Christ at that time. But it was more for her. It wasn't for me. It wasn't a personal relationship with God. It was because she wanted me to. And it was so I could impress her, right? But the moment that we broke up a year later, I went right back to smoking and drinking and doing drugs. And I was working in the music business for Universal Records for about a year in my early 20s. And I was working at Starbucks at night. And this girl came into Starbucks, didn't drink coffee. And she said, "Hey, I work at this church down the street, and we have this really cool college night event. If you want to come hang out, it'd be cool to have you come hang out." And I was this depressed guy who would hang out in my apartment and drink beer all night and pass out on my couch and didn't have any friends. And so I said, "Yeah, let's go. I'll go hang out." Well, it turned out that when I got there, God had just opened up all these doors. There was all these people that I was connected to from Eastern Washington as growing up. And so that kind of opened the door. That was like the seed of me coming to know the Lord. And a few months later, it was Easter morning. And this girl who had invited me to that church event, we were still kind of connected, but not, we weren't dating or anything like that. I just seen her when she come in my store. Well, I went out to party with some buddies, got really drunk, woke up on Easter morning surrounded by about 15 people that were passed out at my buddy's basement. And it was at that moment I felt God go, "You're done." And I had a pastor tell me one time that God kind of has us on these strings. And every time we sin, he cuts the string and reties it and pulls us a little bit closer to him. And I remember being in that basement and waking up and going, I felt God so much in that room that right then and there, I quit cold turkey, drugs, drinking cigarettes, gave my life to Christ in that basement by myself. And then I called that girl up from Starbucks and I said, "Hey, I just want to say happy Easter. Hopefully I'll see you at Starbucks again soon." 3 months later, we were dating. A year later, we're married. And this year we celebrate 15 years of being married.
I listened to your story before, and you said something on there that intrigued me. You said that you had a hard time sharing your story with people. Why is that?
I think I was embarrassed. I just was shy and didn't want to tell people. I think I put on this persona for a lot of years of like, I'm not perfect, but I'm got myself straight and I'm doing good things. And, I was just shy about sharing that testimony. I didn't want to be judged. And even after I gave my life to Christ, it was hard for me to share my story unless I was in like a small men's group or a small group or something like that, or with, a one-on-one situation. And I was listening to a guy do a training on speaking on stages back in October. And I thought, hey, you know what? I'm just going to share my story and throw it out there and see what happens. And it's really been encouraging to hear a lot of great feedback from that. And it was a lot of weight off my shoulders when I finally just put it out there.
Do you think it's harder for men to share their story when they have a relationship with God?
I do. Yeah. And maybe it's just like the background that I come from, but I just felt like I didn't want to share my story. I didn't want to open up and be vulnerable with everybody else. And people would share their story with me. But for me, I wanted to be this tough guy. I wanted to be the guy who was the rock star who came from this awesome life and everything was perfect, and it wasn't me. And inside I battled that for a long time. And so once I released my story, it was, like I said, a really big weight off my shoulders. I've been able to connect with a lot of people that have been really great relationships since I released that. God's just opened up a lot of doors.
Something else that I saw in your bio that I was like, shut the front door. Mixed martial arts, huh?
So I'm a huge fan of MMA. I grew up, I never fought. I did some karate as a kid, maybe did some boxing in high school, but that was about it. But, back in the early days, I'm 40 years old, but in the early days when I was in first and second grade, me and my cousin, who was a year younger, we would walk like a mile in town to go to the VHS store, and we'd go rent UFC 1, 2, and 3. Now, I'd never let my first grade kid to walk a mile into town, but back then, I guess it was different,
Right.
But yeah, so I grew up. My dad always had me watching like ninja movies. I think I was a ninja for Halloween for like 15 years straight. You know, I just always was a fan of the fight game, and so in 2012, I was talking to my wife, and I said, I really want to get into this t-shirt apparel business and see what I can do with it. And so she came up with the idea of Top Rate MMA. She came up with the idea of being 100% American made. And then I went and researched a company that we could donate to, which is Hire Heroes USA. It was started by UFC fighter Brian Stan, and they help veterans transition into the workplace with free job training and job placement. So we actually donate 25% of our profits to those guys. We started out as an apparel, and I've had excitement over the years of up and down. And at one point, I even tried to sell the business because I wasn't excited. In around 2016, I said, I got to change something. And I had my buddy redo my website, and I said, I'm going to start this podcast and see what happens. And I didn't have space in the house to do the podcast, so I actually recorded almost my first 100 episodes from a walk-in closet.
You know what? It be like that sometimes.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. In fact, my full-time job is I work from home, and we've never had a room for me to do that. So actually, my home office was even in the walk-in closet for 2.5 years.
It's a multitask closet.
Totally, absolutely.
Now, okay, so I'm gonna backtrack just a little bit about the martial
Sure.
arts. So,
Yeah.
are you a huge Bruce Lee fan? Please tell me yes, or I will hang
Oh,
up.
absolutely huge Bruce Lee fan. Have all of the movies on DVDs. I used to have them on VHS, and yeah, I just grew up watching Bruce Lee movies all the time. My dad was a huge fan as well, and so he kind of introduced me to Bruce Lee, and I've kept it going for sure.
Yeah, we are too. And matter of fact, I can watch Enter the Dragon like 3 times a day. No
Yeah,
lie. Of course, it's kind of some of the lines are cheesy, but it's
sure,
like I don't even care. I
right.
love that movie. Would you say that your podcast kind of launched you or pushed you into this new new light, new confidence to be able to share your story, to share your dreams, your goals?
It did, yeah. I mean, like I said, when I started the podcast, I had no idea what I was doing. I bought this little cheesy camera from Amazon, and I was using the microphone that was on my laptop when I first started, and I really wanted to just ask guys why they want to get in a cage and get punched in the face, and it was just the strangest thing, and but what it did was every show kept building up more and more confidence. And I realized, like, looking back, the first 3 or 4 shows, I wouldn't look into the camera or I'd look at the screen, and I didn't have lights on in my closet, And so it helped me build a lot more confidence and where I felt comfortable being on camera. And then it opened up more doors to, talk with just a ton of people. I've
Hmm.
now done, between my 2 podcasts, I've now recorded close to 200 episodes.
Oh, so you have 2 podcasts.
I do, yeah. So I launched a new one in January of last year. It was kind of a spin-off. So I've got Top Rated Made, where I focus on really the up-and-coming fighters globally. And so I talk with fighters from all over the world. Usually my shows are short, between 8 and 15 minutes at most. Just me and a fighter, really just getting to know why they got in MMA and things like that. And then in January of last year, I started a new show called The Bearded Biz. And that show opened up so many doors. It allowed me to talk with so many different people. And the kind of premise on that is I get to talk with entrepreneurs, world changers, and success-minded people. And so I've been blessed to be able to talk with people from Ed Milet to Sean Whalen to a kid in England who's 14 making 30 grand a year living on a farm. There was no limit on who I could talk to. And so that's really why I wanted to start the Bearded Biz, because I wanted to just talk to so many people and get to know people. And that's just a passion of mine.
Were you like surprised about how everyone's story, though it may be different, it's very similar?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I love to hear I hate to see people struggle, but I think struggle makes us stronger. And I think, when everybody goes through day-to-day struggles or life problems, and even when there's people who come from, happily married families, there's always something in there somewhere that they cause them to kind of struggle with something, right? And so I love hearing people get through things, break through, have their breakthrough in life, breakthrough in their faith with God. And so I love being able to just hear and talk with people who are on this journey of getting through things like that.
Now, what advice would you give someone who feels lost, who has had similar things happen to them in their life and they don't see an out?
I would say get connected with people that are doing what you want to do, are in the place that you want to be. And I kind of take that from Ed Milet because he says, look, if you're walking around feeling 80 degrees and you want to be successful, or if you want to be like in this spot, you need to surround yourself around with people that can lift you up. And so if I'm walking around 80, I want to go find guys who are walking around at 120 degrees. Because if I go hang around guys who are 120 degrees, my 80-degree temperature is going to go up, and it's going to lift my spirits, and it's going to kind of get me into this spot. Now, hanging around people is not going to get you happy. I think that's something that you have to do internally. That's between you and God. But I think that if you hang around people that are happy in where they're at, or happy doing what you want to do, and you can connect with them, that will lift your spirits, and that will get you going in the right path.
Now, there's people who know that.
Yeah.
I'm going to play devil's advocate just a little bit. There's people who know that.
Yeah.
But yet they still want to hold on to those old friends because they feel guilty.
Yeah.
Now, what advice would you give that person?
Yeah, it's tough. And I've been in that situation when I decided to give my life to Christ, and I had to tell my friends, hey, I can't hang around you guys right now. I have to take a break. And here's why. Me personally, I can't go out to the bar with you guys because I'm trying to fix myself right now. I'm trying to get into a better spot personally. And here's the thing is, if they're real friends, they're going to understand that. And I've been able to come back and be friends with them after I got to a spot where I could feel comfortable talking with them and hanging with them. It wasn't that I didn't want to be friends with them, but it was in a spot where in my life at that time, I needed to make changes, and they weren't in that spot yet. And so I had to say, hey, you know what? I got to back away for a little bit. I got to get into this position. I got to fix myself. I got to put myself at God's feet and say, God, I just give you everything right now. Take control, guide me, lead me. And I think just being able to acknowledge that you can step away, and the real friends will understand that. That's the kind of relationships that you want, right? And it's tough. It's hard to say to your friends, I can't hang around with you right now. But I think if you can do that to get to a better spot for you personally, the relationship will deepen the next time you come around.
And at that moment, that's when you find out who your real friends really are.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I had to tell my daughter, I said, she was like, you have some good friends. I said, I do. I said, but I started naming off friends, and she was like, yeah, where are they? And I started naming off some others. She said, yeah, where are they? I said, do you see my point? I said, just because these little handful are still around, I said, remember the other handful, they're not here anymore. And I thought those were my friends. I'm like, you just really don't know. It takes truly a lifetime to learn who your friends are.
It does. I have one friend, a buddy. Well, I mean, I have more than one friend, but I have one buddy that we met in first grade, and he's still my best friend to this day. So 36 years, him and I have been hanging out, and it's been an amazing time getting to know him, and his family is like my family. And I used to hang out with them, and probably too much at his house as a kid, because my family was crazy, but they kind of adopted me. And so even to this day, I've been his best man in his wedding, and, we've been there for each other's births of our kids and things like that. And through tragedies and just, he's always been there for me. And it's rare I think that you have friends that long. And even looking at the best men that were in my wedding, the groomsmen, I'm friends with 2 of them out of the 6 that were in my wedding now. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I have one best friend, and we grew up in the same church. Our moms was actually pregnant with us at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So we literally been friends since birth. So,
wow, that's awesome.
It's like you talking about somebody who knows everything about you. And I have a guy friend that I've been knowing since high school.
Okay.
And we always laugh. I was like, we have no choice but to be friends because we know too much about each other.
Right.
And you can easily blackmail me, and I can easily blackmail you.
Right. Yeah, totally.
So you're stuck.
Yep.
So tell your friend he's stuck with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So is there anything in your past that you would change?
No. I mean, I think I went through those because it made me who I am. Tony Robbins and they say life happens for us, not to us. And I'm a big believer in that. And I think that, things that have happened in my past or have made me the person that I am today. And I think today I'm extremely blessed. I mean, I have a great job. I have this great company. I have a beautiful, wonderful wife and two awesome kids. And, God has brought this picture of my life together, and it's been an amazing journey. I've gone through the struggle financially at 21 years old. I filed bankruptcy at 20. I was like $28,000 in debt at 21, and today I'm debt free.
Amen.
My wife and I, though we married very quickly. Both of our parents, we've now been longer than both of our parents have been married. And we've just decided that we wanted to change the legacy that we leave with our kids. And my grandma, who's my dad's mom, has been this prayer woman since I was just even born, and she has been the influence for me to bring me closer to God. And she's like 4'2", and she's had 6 kids. My grandpa was 6'4", and she's just been this miracle lady in my life. And she's had such an influence on my kids and my wife and my kids. And, it's just been an amazing thing. God brought my wife and I together. Funny story. We were actually born at exactly 1:41 p.m. documented on our birth certificate. Different days, different years, but the exact same minute on our birth certificate.
Get out.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Pretty destined.
Yeah.
She stuck with you too.
Yep, stuck. Yep, absolutely. Yep.
There's no getting away, woman.
That's right. That's right.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I love your spirit. It's not that many men whose hearts are open like that, because they have a fear of letting people know what the true love of God really is. And I love your spirit, and I only hope and pray that everything you do and your wife does and your family does will just increase.
It's been an interesting, last year. I haven't been in a men's group or anything like that, but I'm really excited because I got invited by the pastor of our church to go join a men's group with him personally that starts here in a couple weeks. And I just missed that connection with other men. And so I'm really looking forward to that. And I really encourage any guy out there listening to this that if you're feeling like you have this weight on your shoulders or you're not connecting with people, get into a men's group. And I think that can really stretch you and really grow you, but also make a ton of open doors for you in your life and just really get you stronger in that relationship with God.
And man, serving God is not soft.
Right. I can't tell you how many times I've had like booger cry incidents, during worship or, right. Like I'm helping families that, my wife and I had gone down to Tijuana and built some houses with for families down there. And we do it over a weekend. And to see these families go from a dirt floor to a house in 24 hours that we build for them.
Wow.
I mean, it's unbelievable. And I try to be the manly man and during their ceremony of passing them the key, but it's God's presence is so much there in those situations that, I can't hold it. I mean, just booger crying, watching these families, right? It's like, God just has taken over me and like, quit the manly stuff, man. God is the way, man. It's been fun.
Yes, it is. It's joy serving God. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, especially for men, I think we need to get into this routine of doing things. If you're a morning person, I'm a morning person, so I get up at 4 a.m. 6 days a week. So my morning routine is wake up and immediately after, getting out of the shower, I'm on my knees and I'm praying. Like that's before I grab coffee. It's a non-negotiable. When I wake up in the morning, that's what I have to do. And I think that men especially just need to get this routine. Like if you're a night person, then do that when you wake up or do it at night. And, for me, I just think you just need to get in routines of really making sure that you're always connecting with God, even throughout the day, just not in the morning, but especially right when you wake up or right before you go to bed as well.
I do that too. Actually, I just started doing the prayer in the morning. I always prayed at night, but when this year rolled around, I was just led to start praying in the morning too.
Okay.
Because he didn't have to protect us while we were sleeping. So right. I start praying in the morning, and it makes my day go by better too.
Absolutely. How did you come to know the Lord?
I was raised in a very strict Christian home, extremely strict Christian home. So,
Gotcha.
Pentecostal. And so it was the whole additive, church kids are the worst kids. So as soon as you get a chance to break free, you truly break free. And the thing was, I wasn't a drinker. I wasn't a smoker. I wasn't do drugs, but I love clubbing. That was just my thing because I love dancing. I was into that whole MC Hammer,
Come on.
BBD. Yeah, I was all into that. I
Yeah.
was in a dance group. I was serious about this thing. I was gonna be
Okay.
famous.
Yeah.
So,
Come on.
um, but the Lord pumped my brakes really quick.
Okay.
Met somebody, got married extremely young, and was pregnant within a month. I was
Wow.
like married and pregnant before 20.
Wow.
So everything stopped.
Yeah.
But that was a horrible marriage.
Okay.
It sucked.
Hmm.
So got out that marriage with 2 kids, and things just started going like in waves where I was just running.
Hmm.
I ran a good race for a long
Hmm.
time, and then finally I just got tired of running,
Hmm.
and God just touched me. I went to church, and that was it. It
Wow.
was a wrap.
Wow.
So,
That's a cool
um,
story. Thank you for sharing.
oh, you're welcome. It's a daily walk. I tell young people all the time, don't look at me as a role model.
Hmm.
Just because man to fail, man to fall.
Yep.
I will make mistakes. I'm not perfect, not by any means, but I do try.
Yeah.
And that's all I can do is try. I just try to live an example for my children.
Mm.
My mom and my dad were extreme prayer warriors, so I have a good example of how to pray and how to live right. But yet and still, this flesh is stupid, and I like to listen to it every now and again.
Sure. Right. Absolutely. Yep.
I stand firm. I'm saved. I'm sanctified, and I'm filled with the Holy Ghost. But
Yeah.
yet and still, I'm still not perfect. I'm
Go.
so,
Yep.
so yeah. That's my story.
That's
Does that
awesome.
even make any sense whatsoever?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's awesome. Absolutely. The first cassette that I ever owned was MC Hammer. So back when they actually had cassettes. So
Right,
absolutely.
right, right. You get it. Now I still
Yep.
love my music.
Yep.
And I mean I can't help it. That's just.
Yeah.
But it's my music. But my playlist is broad. It goes
Sure.
all over the place. So.
And mine too. I mean, I grew up at music. My dad was always into music. I went to concerts at a very early age. My first concert was Richard Marx. For my
Hmm.
13th birthday, my dad took me to see Rod Stewart, and
Nice.
and so I've seen some real legends out there. But then working in the music business, managing a band, I mean, I've probably been blessed to go to close to 300 concerts in my lifetime, and it's been, a lot of those were blurs, a lot of
Hmm.
backstage passes, a lot of open tabs, and but just been blessed. And so music to me is, it used to just be very metal, like hardcore metal. And when I worked for Universal, kind of opened up my eyes to country and hip hop and, rap
Hmm.
and more dance stuff. And so I've got a pretty broad, but I still like music as life. I don't
Yeah.
listen to just worship music every day. Like when I'm working, I have to have music. I don't like silence. So I love to have
Me
something working. All
either.
right. I always have music going.
I'm like, I gotta have that white noise in the background. I need it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm glad to hear you say that.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely. I
yeah,
can.
it could be anywhere. I mean, one day I'll be listening to Aerosmith, and the next day I'll be listening to New Edition, then the next day. I mean, you just don't know. I
Yep.
could be listening to Kirk Franklin one day. I'm just all over the place. It just depends on my mood.
Yeah.
So if I need a little candy girl, then so be it.
Come on. Oh, that's awesome.
So how can people get in contact with you?
So I'm on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. Top rated MMA is the handle on Twitter and Instagram, and the top rated mixed martial arts is on Facebook. My other podcast is the Bearded Biz, so it's just Bearded Biz, BIZ on Facebook, and then bearded.biz on Instagram. My personal account on both of those is just Erik G. Allen on Instagram and Twitter. And I just love connecting with people. And so this has been such an honor to be able to be on your show, Lillian. And I love hearing your story.
Oh,
And I think your
thank you.
spirit is awesome. And I think what you're doing is literally world changing. So keep doing what you're doing. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you. God bless. I need to hear that. Thank
Come
you.
on.
All right, you ready for your last question?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's make it happen.
If you could have any song be your theme song when you walked into a room, what would it be and why?
Man, that's such a good one. My theme song is just what I needed. Wait, sorry, my brain just went blank there for a sec. I'm trying. My favorite band is the Cars, and
Okay.
so my brain just went blank on just what I needed. I think is the song.
Okay.
And so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think my favorite song, my theme song. Um, I think my favorite theme song right now over the last probably 5 years is "Shut Up and Dance with Me" because my wife and I love that song, and my kids love that song. So "Shut Up and Dance with Me" is definitely my go-to song.
Okay. I do like that song.
Yeah.
That's funny. You went from the Cars to Shut Up and Dance.
Right. Well, I was like, I can't think of a song, so I'm just gonna say "Shut Up and Dance with Me" because that really is a thing. My kids are, in elementary school, and so when they hear that song, they just hear the first beat and they start going nuts. So it's fun.
It's like, crank it up, Dad. I'm like, alrighty.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, thank you, Eric. You've been a blast.
Yeah, it was so much fun to talk to you, Lily. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Erik, for being on my show today. I greatly appreciate it. Your story is one for the record books, and I can only hope that it only inspires others to overlook your circumstance and see what God has for you. And if you would like to be on Worldly Church Girl, click the link below, shoot me an email, and let's see what we can do with that thing. And while you're listening, you might as well subscribe. I only have great shows ahead. I guarantee it. So thanks again to listening to your one and only Worldly Church Girl.